Okay. So let's go back to like trying to understand the differences between what was given at Mount Horeb, what happened at Mount Horeb and Sinai, and then what was added onto that transgression. So it's a very good question that that you think is a statement that you're putting out there. But this is in when you are wrong. I have been in the BHI before, and I know what they are teaching, and they think that they should keep the sacrificial law, which is the whole Torah, not thinking that if you have the Spirit of grace, the Spirit of truth, that will convict you to not do, to not transgress the rest of the commandments, the precepts and statutes. Now, we are in captivity. Everyone who is outside of the Holy Land, they are actually in captivity. Why? Because of social media, because of the things that are happening in the world that they are being taught and that they are teaching their children. And this is like part of that punishment that we are going through. That's just like the children of Israel who were in Egypt, learning their ways, living like the Egyptians. But when they came into the first Exodus, going into the Holy Land, they were being on the way taught the first of all the 10 Commandments. But after they transgressed, those 10 Commandments in the wilderness, then the sacrificial law was added onto it. Then the Levitical priesthood was activated. So just trying to explain to you as best as I can, and hopefully you will see it, but that kind of depends on your heart. So let's see. Let's read Galatians, because this is the whole thing. In Galatians, Judaizers, those who think that the Sabbath is dusk to dusk, those who think that that men at the I think 8 days or 7 days after they are born, they are supposed to circumcise their penises. But that's the whole thing. When Paul, who was a Jew, and he himself kept the Torah, he kept it all, he himself says that it was not necessary to circumcise yourself, but what was necessary to circumcise was your heart. So those who came after him in Galatians, teaching people that they should keep the sacrificial law, the circumcision of the flesh, doing all kinds of rituals and animal sacrifices and all those kind of stuff, even like in Acts 15 is talking about, he says that it was not necessary. So let's go through it, right? Obviously you can read the whole passage, and the whole chapter is just very clear, literally. So let me see. Guess we can read from verse 10 or something. For as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse. Works of the law under the curse, what does that mean? That's the sacrificial law. That's literally the sacrificial law. Anytime in in the New Testament when Paul was speaking about the law in a negative sense and using the idioms of flesh, he was talking about the sacrificial law. So for it is written, cursed is everyone that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them, but that no man is justified by the law in the sight of God. It is evident for the just shall live by faith. What's that faith? That's the Spirit of grace convicting you to keep the 10 Commandments, to eat clean, and then to fulfill the royal law. because that's the whole parable of the unjust steward. He goes and he tells those who are the Gentiles, those who are from the house of Israel, the 10 tribes, because they are scattered all over the world into the Gentiles, they only, and they're in captivity, they only need to keep the 10 commandments, dietary law, and fulfill the royal law, teaching others to do so, but not do the feast outside of the land, which is profaning the feast. Also, knowing that God took away the feast so that we could first mourn. That is to watch, being a watchman, that is to fulfill the royal law. And the law is not of faith, and the law is not of faith, but the man that doeth them shall live in them. Messiah hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, right? Being made a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on the tree. So what did he die for? He died for that sacrificial law. He died so that we do not need to keep the law of death and sin, because when he died, his blood dripped into the Ark of the Covenant. It did not drip outside of the Ark where the sacrificial law is, all the rest of the statutes and rituals and like I said, sacrificial law. It did not dripple on those kind of stuff. It only dripped on what was inside, literally what was inside of the Ark of the Covenant. And yes, sin is transgression of the law. But again, if you think about it, who transgressed the law? Literally, who transgressed the law? What did they do? When they were in the wilderness, they built a golden calf and they said, look, this is Jehovah who took us out of the land of Egypt. Literally what the people are doing now. Saying, oh, look, this cross, Jesus, who's Baal, died on the cross for us so that we can just sin again. So I hope that kind of makes sense. But what I'm trying to say is that, again, when they built that golden calf, what did they transgress? It was the 10 commandments that they transgressed. Because in Deuteronomy 5, 1-22, when you read it and you can see he added no more, he literally added no more. He only did the 10 commandments. And we have the dietary rainbow covenant from our forefather Noah, like the whole world needs to do. And those are the covenants with promise that were made. And then you have the royal law that we need to fulfill. So, hope that kind of makes sense. Let's see. So, hangeth on the tree, not the cross, because that's Tammuz, but on a stake, right? That the blessing of Abraham might come unto the Gentiles through Yeshua Messiah, that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. So, how do you get that promise of the Spirit? Because this is actually about the Spirit of truth. When you keep the 10 commandments, he did not say go and do the sacrificial law. He says keep the 10 commandments. If you love me, keep the 10 commandments. You'll pray to the Father. You receive the Comforter, even the Spirit of truth, and thereby he will abide with you, and you will know him. That is what he was talking about. Now we read further. Brethren, I speak after the manner of man, though it be but a man's covenant, yet if it be confirmed, no man disannul or addeth thereto. Okay? Now, to Abraham and his seed, where the promise made. He saith not unto seeds, not as many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Messiah. And this I say, that the covenant was confirmed before of God in Messiah, the law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul that it should make the promise of none effect. Okay, I'm just gonna extend. So of none effect. For if the inheritance be of the law, it is no more of promise. Okay, but God gave it to Abraham by promise. Right? First, it went to Abraham as a promise, which are actually the Ten Commandments. If you have read Jubilees, Abraham would not do a sacrificial law. He would just offer. That is true. At that time, that is what we will be doing, or they will be doing. Sorry. And of course, those who are outside of the kingdom, they will be doing the sacrificial law. However, not to go another way. However, Abraham's faith, because he believed, it was because he actually kept part of the Ten Commandments. Part of those are like loving your neighbor as yourself, not to fornicate, not to do idolatry, of course. But they are all written in Jubilees. Jubilees 7, I think, like from verse 20, when Noah would relay those commandments, and loving your neighbor, I already said that, honoring your mother and father, which is one of the Ten Commandments as well. He would relate that to his sons, and those will be, teaching their sons, and going to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So, then verse 19, wherefore then serveth the law, it was added because of transgression, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made. Literally, to whom the promise was made. So many people would think, oh, this is talking about the garden, but it's more specifically talking about Abraham, because he received that promise, literally. And it was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator. And we know that mediator is Moses. Now, a mediator is not a mediator of one, but God is one. Okay? So then let's see. Actually, let's read a bit further. Is the law then against the promise of God? God forbid. For if there had been a law given which could have given life, verily righteousness should have been by the law. But the scripture hath concluded all under sin, that the promise by faith of Yeshua Messiah might be given to them that believe. Yeshua Messiah being that Deuteronomy 18, okay, capital P prophet, who came to teach us what was desired at Mount Horeb. What was desired at Mount Horeb is the Ten Commandments. Just as I just said in Deuteronomy 5, if you read even like verse 2, it says it literally there, the covenant that was made at Mount Horeb. Okay, and then you just read the whole Ten Commandments, and that is, until verse 22, the key word is added no more. That is literally what it is, and that is what the righteousness is, as Deuteronomy 6:25 says it. So we do not need to keep the sacrificial law, the rituals, all those type of stuff we don't need to keep, because if you keep the Ten Commandments, automatically with the Spirit of truth, it will convict you to not, for example, go and do, like I just told you, go and do the bestiality. Like it's a schoolmaster. The laws that came after are the schoolmasters. You had precepts, you had judgments. For example, precept being for a commandment is thou shalt keep the Sabbath holy. Precept being on the Sabbath you will not buy, you will not sell, you will not work. Those are the precepts, right? And then the judgment, if you do work, if you do buy and sell, you'll be stoned to death. That's the judgment. So those are the differences. But based on the Ten Commandments, there were precepts about that, but the rest that came after is not needed anymore, because those schoolmasters are done away with. Like, that's That's just done away with. So it would not be like you have to wear wool every time, like only wool and wool. Those are like now spiritual meaning. What does that mean? Wearing if God says you should not mix fabrics, it means that you should not put the holy with the profane. For example, you should not feast outside of the land where the name of Jehovah is not there written, because he says himself, you should only do the feasts when you are in the land where he has put his name. Where is that? In Jerusalem. So does that mean that you can go into Jerusalem and do the feast? Well, two things. First, the idolatry, the temples, everything that still has idolatry in that land has to be removed. So what does that mean? The land is polluted. And also the calendar is polluted because it has Tammuz on it and other many names of the pagan gods. So no, you cannot yet do any feast even in the land. Because even Lamentation 2, he tells us that he hates it when we go feasting. He hates it because he prefers that we actually mourn. Ecclesiastic says that we should go rather first into the house of mourning than in the house of feasting. I hope that kind of makes sense. But this all ties into being the Ezekiel 2, 3, and 33, Mark 13, 1 Timothy 5, watchmen. Again, that is to fulfill the royal law. That is to bring people into repentance, to let them not sin anymore. What is sin? Transgression of the law. Which law? The 10 Commandments, because that's where it all starts with. That is all where it starts with. So I'm sorry I went on a tangent, but I just hope that you can understand this. I don't know if I read that. So, in the faith of the Messiah might be given to them that believe. So that believe in what the Messiah came to teach us. But before faith came, we were kept under the law, which is a sacrificial law, shut up unto the faith which should afterwards be revealed. Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto the Messiah, that we might be justified by faith. But after that faith is come, we are no longer under the sacrificial law, no longer after all the other laws that come after it. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So let's go to Deuteronomy 18. So actually, let's go to Colossians first, because I thought maybe it would be best to read that one verse. Anyone knows this verse? I know that you probably know this verse as well, right? Blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to the stake. So that was against us. First, I'm going to go and read for you Ezekiel 20. So I highly recommend you read the whole chapter, but I'm going to read from verse 21 to 25. This is literally a summary of what happened in the wilderness when the children of Israel were taken out of Egypt. Notwithstanding the children rebelled against me, they walked not in my statutes, neither kept my judgments to do them, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. They polluted my Sabbaths. Then I said, I would pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the wilderness. Nevertheless, I withdrew my hand and wrought for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted in the sight of the heathen, because they were supposed to teach the heathen to do the same. That's the royal law. In whose sight I brought them forth. I lift up mine hand unto them also in the wilderness, that I would scatter them among the among the heathen, and disperse them through the countries, because they had not executed my judgments, but had despised my statutes, and had polluted my Sabbaths, and their eyes were after their father's idols. Okay, that's the golden calf, and of course many other things. Wherefore I gave them also statutes that were not good. Okay, not good, and judgments whereby they should not live. Okay, that should like very much like he gave them statutes that they should live by and statutes that which they should not live by. So the statutes that wherewith they should not live by are those who came after the sacrificial law, the rituals and everything like that. It was all meant to be a spiritual meaning so that they could actually look to Yeshua. They could find Yeshua. But they missed that. Like you are missing if you're saying, oh, we are supposed to keep the whole Torah. If you keep the 10 Commandments, you eat clean and you fulfill the royal law, then you are doing the whole Torah. That's the bullseye of the Torah. And Torah means bullseye. So that's literally just that. Like, you don't need to keep any other thing. If a person keeps the 10 Commandments, eat clean, and he then or she then goes and does literally, like for example, has sexual intercourse while the woman or the woman itself while she's bleeding, there is no way that that person actually really was following God with all of the heart, soul, and mind. There is no way that that person has the spirit of truth while they'll be doing that. The spirit of truth literally convicts you to not do such a thing. So you don't need to look into the Torah to actually see, oh, I cannot do this, I cannot do that, I cannot do this, I cannot do that. You just know, by the spirit of truth, you just know, literally. Wisdom comes with it, discernment comes with it. So I really hope that kind of really makes sense, because I don't know, many people seem to miss this. They think that you need to keep the whole, as the Christians say, 600 and whatever laws. But no, you're not supposed to do that at all. But I was going to go to Deuteronomy 18. So let's read that. So this is what Peter is quoting. So Peter quotes this, or as in Hebrew they say kefa, if you prefer that, but not that it matters. The language will be, Yah will be the one who will restore the pure language, not us people. He will be the one to literally do that. So this is talking about Yeshua. Yehovah thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee and thy brethren, like unto me. Unto him ye shall hearken according to all that thou desirest of Yehovah thy God in Horeb. Okay, Horeb. In the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of Yehovah my God, neither let me see this great fire any more, that I die not. And Yehovah said unto me, they have well spoken that which they have spoken. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren like unto thee, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I have commanded him. That was desired at Mount Horeb. That's one thing you have to stick in your head. If you want to literally just understand the refreshing. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. And that is what is happening now in the Christian churches, even in the Torah movement, even in the BHI, speaking in another God's name, right? They're missing the whole point of the Torah. They're missing the whole point about, for example, keeping the key of David, the dawn to dawn Sabbath, missing the whole point of the royal law, searching after the lost sheep of Israel, which is of every color. It's not black people only, it's every color. Everyone. God doesn't give a damn about your flesh, color, whatsoever. He does not give a damn. He only wants you to circumcise your heart. He only wants to literally that you just circumcise your heart. Many people miss that. And I missed that as well when I was in the BHI. It was just entitlement. Because being black and being always targeted, right? I know how that is. I know how that feels. But that's just Satan cleverly using tactics like that to divide people from actually knowing the real truth. And praise Yah, he showed me that. Let's see, where was I gonna go? So I would just want to read to you exactly, I think Exodus 17, if you read from verse 6, but actually like the whole chapter, like from verse 16 to 20, is very good, but I'm gonna try. Okay, so, and all the congregation of the children of Israel sojourned from the wilderness of Sin. So after their journey according to the commandment of Jehovah, and pitched in Rephidim. And there was no water for the people to drink, wherefore the people did chide with Moses and said, give us water that we may drink. Right? And Moses said unto them, why chide ye with me? Wherefore do ye tempt Jehovah? And the people thirsted there for water, and the people murmured against Moses and said, wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt? And just a little good side note, when the second Exodus happens, like some people will be prone to say these things. Why did you bring us out of America? Why did you bring us out of Belgium? Why did you bring us out of this or this country, so that we can thirst and be killed by thirst, our children, our cattle? Okay, this is like, it's an idiom, it's prophecy. Because the second Exodus that will happen, it will be like unto the first, but even greater. Verse 4, and Moses cried unto Jehovah, saying, what shall I do unto these people? They be almost ready to stone me. And Jehovah said unto Moses, go on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Israel and thy rod, wherefore thou smotest the river. Take in thine hand and go. Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb. That's a mountain. And thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. Right? So then let's go to 19. In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they unto the wilderness in Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim, and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. So which mount is that? That is actually Mount Horeb, where there is water for them to drink. Okay. And Moses went up unto God, and Jehovah called unto him out of the mountain. So that mountain is Mount Horeb, saying, thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptian and how I bear you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. So these are the words which ye shall speak unto the children of Israel. And they said yes. They accepted this covenant. This was a verbal covenant that they will do, that they will obey. So what were the conditions of those covenants? Of that covenant, was the 10 Commandments, which in Exodus 20 is very, very well explained. Okay, because in verse 20, and Moses said unto the people, fear not, for God is come to prove you, that his fear may be before your faces, and that ye sin not. And he said that after the 10 Commandments, because at verse 18, what did those people say? Because and all the people saw the thundering and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed, right? And stood afar off. And they said unto Moses, speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die. What did Deuteronomy just say? It said just the same thing, that we die not. So when we then go to Deuteronomy 5, and Moses called all Israel and said unto them, hear, O Israel, the statutes and judgments which I speak in your ears this day, that ye may learn them. And keep and do them. Jehovah our God made a covenant with us in Horeb. Okay, right there it says Horeb. And Jehovah made not this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us, who are all of us here alive this day. And I just want to say, in this video also, for those who do not know, mixed multitude was with the children of Israel. A mixed multitude was with them. So they received the 10 Commandments too. Just see what else. So if you read further and you go to verse 22 of Deuteronomy 5, verse 22, it says, these words Jehovah spake unto all your assembly in the mount out of the midst of the fire. Okay, Jehovah was stood on the Mount Sinai. However, the children of Israel, they stood on the Mount Horeb. Okay, it's good that you know that difference. It's not the same mountains. They're not the same mountains. So, out of the mountain midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness, with a great voice, and he added no more. He added no more. And he wrote them in 2 tables of stone, and delivered them unto me. But what happened after those 10 Commandments were given, okay, Moses went up to retrieve those tablets, but in those days that he was gone, what happened? The children of Israel transgressed the 10 Commandments that they were given already at that moment verbally. They transgressed it. Okay? That's why Moses broke the tablets, and he had to go back up again and retrieve the 2 tablets and the sacrificial law that was added after transgression. So I hope that kind of makes sense to you, because scripture is just very clear here. We do not need to, it's still good to just read what the Torah says. I'm not saying don't read what the Torah says, or anything of that, or I'm not saying just keep the 10 Commandments, but if you're gonna have sex with the beast, go ahead and do that. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that the Spirit of truth, when people keep the 10 Commandments, they obey God, they will literally not do such a thing, because they're convicted through the Spirit, through His Spirit, that they will not do it. They'll be convicted through literally their spirit not to do that. Like, it's really simple. And instead of stoning people, instead of stoning them, we fulfill the royal law. We rebuke their sin. Let me actually read that for you. Loving your neighbor as yourself. Oops, I think I'm a bit too far. Oops. So, I'll just read from verse 11. You shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another. This is one of the 10 Commandments, but you see here it says neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another. If you have the Spirit of truth, you will neither deal falsely, neither lie to one another. If you have the Spirit of truth, you will neither swear by the name falsely. You will not swear, as the Christian church are doing. Neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am Jehovah. Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him. Okay, if you have the Spirit of truth, that's literally what you will not do. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning. Thou shalt not curse the deaf. You will not do that if you have the Spirit of truth. Nor put a stumbling block before the blind. Okay, so saying that, oh, you should keep the whole Torah. You should keep the whole Torah. You should keep the whole Torah, not only the 10 Commandments. That is kind of putting a stumbling block before them, because you're actually teaching people to go in and then literally, for example, don't wear mixed fabrics. That's ridiculous. Like, it's not needed. It's really not needed. But that's a stumbling block. But shall fear thy God. I am Jehovah. Ye shall not do unrighteousness in judgment. That's the royal law. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty, but in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor. What is the righteousness of God? Those are the 10 Commandments. Deuteronomy 6:25 says it. It shall be our righteousness. Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither shalt thou stand against the blood of thy neighbor. I am Jehovah. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him. To the standards of the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am Jehovah. If a person then will start to sin, like for example, neither deal falsely or just anything like that. That is or even like when people like put stumbling block. The Spirit of truth will convict you to teach that person the right path, to rebuke them in righteousness. So you need to keep the 10 Commandments, basically. It's the 10 Commandments. That's a circumcision of the heart. And even Deuteronomy 10:30 says that. I hope it really makes sense.